When I first saw Isabella, I swear the city went quiet. It was a Tuesday evening in downtown Miami, the kind where the air was heavy with the smell of ocean salt and fried arepas from the food truck across the street. I was 23, a recent college graduate, lost in the shuffle of finding a job that wouldn't bore me to death. And then there she was, standing in line at a cafe, wearing a loose white sundress, her hair black and shiny like midnight waves. I remember the way she turned slightly, caught me staring, and gave me a half-smile. It wasn't shy. It wasn't bold either. It was that perfect balance, the kind of smile that says I see you, but let's see if you're worth my time. Is this seat taken? I asked, pointing at the small table next to hers once we had our drinks. She shook her head, her earrings brushing her neck. Go ahead. That was it. That tiny green light. We spent the next hour talking, about music, about Miami traffic, about how she hated when people thought Latina was a single box that explained her whole life. I'm Dominican, she clarified with a little flick of her fingers, as if it should have been obvious. Born here, though. My mom still makes sure the house smells like sofrito every day. Her voice had this rhythm, almost like a song. I didn't even notice my coffee had gone cold. We exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, Isabella became the center of my days. Texts in the morning. Long calls at night. Weekend walks along the beach where she'd tell me about her dream of opening a dance studio. I couldn't believe how quickly she pulled me in. But here's where the story gets complicated. Because looking back, there were moments, small, strange moments, that didn't quite make sense. Like the first time we met up at a salsa club. She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, her perfume stronger than usual. She seemed different. More daring, more fiery. She pulled me onto the dance floor without hesitation. You're terrible, she laughed as I tripped over my own feet. Thanks for the encouragement, I said, pretending to pout. Don't worry, I'll fix you, she winked. It was exhilarating. But the next time we went dancing, at the same club, she seemed softer, almost shy, guiding me patiently instead of teasing me. I chalked it up to mood swings. People aren't consistent all the time, right? Then there was the texting. Sometimes her style was playful, loaded with emojis and LOLs. Other times, her replies were cleaner, more formal. One night I asked, "Why do your texts sound so different sometimes?" She giggled. What do you mean? Like, sometimes it's all hearts and smileys. Other times it's like I'm texting a professor. Maybe I'm just complicated, she said, sipping her margarita. I laughed it off. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was overthinking. Weeks passed, and I was in deep. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Everything about Isabella hooked me. The way she tied her hair up when she was concentrating, the way she laughed at her own jokes before finishing them, the way her eyes softened when she talked about family. Then one afternoon, it happened. The slip that would change everything. It was a lazy Sunday. I dropped by her apartment unannounced, holding a bag of pastelitos I'd picked up from a bakery. When she opened the door, her expression froze for just a second before she smiled. Hey, you didn't tell me you were coming. Surprise, I said, holding up the bag. I brought food. She pulled me inside, and I noticed her hair was styled differently, straighter than usual. Her nails were painted a dark red instead of the soft pink I'd seen the day before. You changed fast, I joked, setting the food on her counter. She blinked. What do you mean? Well, yesterday your nails were pink. There was a pause. A flicker of something I couldn't read in her eyes. Then she laughed, a little too loudly. Oh, yeah. I got bored. Changed them this morning. It didn't sit right with me. Pink nails don't just turn into dark red overnight without me noticing some polish remover and a whole process. But I let it go. A week later, the truth began to unravel. I was supposed to meet Isabella at a small art gallery. She texted me the address, and I showed up 10 minutes early. As I was waiting by the entrance, I saw her across the street. She waved, and I waved back. But before she crossed, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned, and there she was, standing right next to me. For a split second, my brain refused to process it. I looked back across the street. The other, Isabella, was gone. "What's wrong?" the one beside me asked. My throat went dry. "I thought, I just saw you over there." She tilted her head. "Over there." I nodded, my heart hammering. But I didn't say more. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was imagining things. That night, though, I couldn't shake it. The hair, the nails, the mood swings, the two Isabellas. My gut screamed at me that something was off. The final confirmation came at a family barbecue. She'd invited me to meet her cousins, aunts, and uncles. The backyard smelled like grilled meat and plantains, laughter echoing over salsa music blasting from a speaker. I was nervous but excited. I wanted to belong to her world. Then I saw her, or rather, I saw them. Two identical young women stood by the grill, laughing at something their uncle said. Same long black hair. Same deep brown eyes. Same everything. One of them spotted me, her face lighting up. She jogged over and kissed me on the cheek. "Hey, you made it," she said. The other one, still by the grill, smirked knowingly, like she'd been waiting for this. My mind spun. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. "Wait," I stammered, pointing between them. There's two of you?" They exchanged a glance, then burst out laughing. "This is my sister," Isabella said finally, wiping a tear from her eye. "My identical twin. Her name's Gabriella." Gabriella extended her hand with a mischievous smile. "Nice to meet you. So you're the guy my sister's been talking about non-stop." I shook her hand, still reeling. Identical twins. That explained everything. The nail polish. The shifting personalities. The double sightings. But what it didn't explain was the creeping suspicion in my chest. Had I been talking to Gabriella sometimes instead of Isabella? And if so, did she know? The rest of that barbecue blurred together like a fever dream. I kept smiling, nodding along to conversations, eating plates piled high with arroz con pollo and maduros, but my brain was somewhere else entirely. Every time I glanced at the twins, I found myself playing a private game of spot the difference. Was Isabella the one laughing louder, or was that Gabriella? Did Isabella stand with her arms crossed, or was that her sister's habit? The more I watched, the less I could tell them apart. At one point, Gabriella caught me staring. She tilted her head, gave me that sly grin again, the kind that felt like she knew a secret and was daring me to figure it out. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the dishes were stacked high in the sink, I asked Isabella the question that had been pounding at the back of my mind. "So, do you and Gabriella switch places sometimes?" She froze. Her hand, halfway to the fridge for a bottle of water, stopped in midair. "Switch places?" she repeated carefully. "Yeah, like, pretend to be each other. You know, twin stuff." Her lips curved into a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We used to when we were kids. Not anymore." I tried to laugh. "You sure? 'Cause there were a couple times." She set the bottle down with a soft thud. "You're imagining things." Maybe I was. Maybe. But the thought stuck like a burr. The following week, I texted Isabella to meet at our usual cafe. She agreed, said she'd be there at 3 p.m. sharp. When I arrived, she was already sitting at a corner table, scrolling through her phone. Her hair was in a braid, something she'd never worn before. I slid into the seat across from her. "Hey," She looked up, smiled. Hey yourself. We talked about random things. The weather, her cousin's new puppy, my crappy attempt at cooking spaghetti the night before. But as the conversation went on, I noticed something strange. She kept asking questions she should have already known the answers to. So what do you do again? What do I do? I repeated, blinking. Yeah, like, for work. I laughed nervously. I told you, I just started at the marketing firm downtown. Her cheeks flushed. Oh, right. Sorry, I forget sometimes. Forget? That wasn't like Isabella. She had a memory like steel. She once reminded me of a joke I told on our first date, word for word. As I stirred my iced coffee, a chilling thought crept in. This isn't Isabella. I studied her face, the same face I'd kissed a dozen times. But the way she carried herself, the way her eyes darted around, the slightly different cadence in her voice. It hit me like a punch. This was Gabriella. I didn't confront her, though. Not right away. I played along, my heart thundering, until we walked out of the cafe together. Then I stopped on the sidewalk. Gabriella, I said quietly. She stiffened. What? You're not Isabella. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then, to my shock, she grinned. Took you long enough. My jaw dropped. So you admit it? She shrugged, tossing her braid over her shoulder. Sometimes she's busy. I cover for her. What's the big deal? The big deal. I sputtered. I've been talking to you thinking you were her. Do you realize how messed up that is? Her expression softened. Relax. I never lied to hurt you. Honestly, I just like talking to you. You're different from the guys she usually dates. That only made my stomach twist more. So how many times has this happened? Be honest. She hesitated, then sighed. More than once. I walked home in a haze that night, trying to replay every interaction in my head. The fiery dancer who teased me mercilessly, that was probably Gabriella. The softer, patient one? Isabella. The emojis, the formal texts, the nail polish. All of it fit into place like pieces of a cruel puzzle. The next time I saw Isabella, I couldn't keep it in. We were sitting in her apartment, watching a movie, when I blurted it out. Why didn't you tell me about Gabriella? She flinched, her hand pausing halfway to the popcorn bowl. What do you mean? She pretended to be you. More than once. At the cafe. At the club. Probably other times, too. I thought I was with you, but it was her. Isabella's eyes widened, then narrowed. She what? You didn't know? Her face hardened. No. She wasn't supposed to. She stopped herself, biting her lip. Wasn't supposed to? I pressed. God, she always does this. Isabella shoved the popcorn aside and stood, pacing. She thinks it's funny. Or maybe she's jealous, I don't know. We promised not to play those games anymore. I sat frozen, unsure what to say. My chest ached with confusion, anger, and something else I didn't want to name. Do you like her? Isabella asked suddenly, turning on me with sharp eyes. What? You seemed pretty comfortable with her at the cafe. Did you even notice the difference right away? I figured it out eventually, I said, defensive. But that's not the point. The point is, I thought I was with you. Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Finally, Isabella muttered, I'm going to kill her. She grabbed her phone and stormed into the bedroom, the door slamming shut behind her. That night, lying in bed, my mind spun in a loop. I loved Isabella. Or at least, I thought I did. But I couldn't deny the truth that gnawed at me. Some of the moments I cherished most weren't with her. They were with Gabriella. Her teasing, her fiery energy, the way she pushed me out of my comfort zone, that wasn't Isabella at all. That was her twin. And now I didn't know what to do with that knowledge. The next morning, I got a text from Gabriella. Gabriella, sorry if I crossed a line. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Me, about what? Gabriella, about us. Us? The word sent a jolt through me. There wasn't supposed to be an us. But now I wasn't so sure. I agreed to meet Gabriella, even though I knew I shouldn't. Curiosity gnawed at me like a rat at a cupboard door. We met at a small Cuban cafe tucked away on a quiet street. It was nothing like the lively salsa club or her sister's favorite brunch spot. This place was dim, cozy, filled with the scent of strong coffee and buttered toast. Gabriella arrived 5 minutes late, her hair loose around her shoulders. She wore a leather jacket, the kind that looked out of place in Miami heat, but on her it somehow worked. "Thanks for coming," she said as she slid into the booth across from me. I crossed my arms. "You realize you've completely messed with my head, right?" Her lips curved into that mischievous smile. "Yeah, I guess I did. You pretended to be Isabella. You let me think I was dating her when half the time it was you." "Not half the time," she corrected, raising a finger. "Just a few times. Here and there. That doesn't make it better." She sighed and leaned back. "Look, I know it was wrong. I shouldn't have crossed that line. But can I be honest? Go ahead. I liked you." The words hit harder than I expected. "I wasn't trying to steal you," she continued quickly. "At first, I just wanted to see what kind of guy Isabella was dating. She's always been the golden twin. Perfect grades, perfect smile, the one everyone loves. I was just curious. But then I met you and—" she shrugged, looking down at her hands. "You were different." "Different how?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "You listen. You actually care about what people say. You don't just nod and wait for your turn to talk. And you don't look at me like I'm Isabella's shadow." Her words twisted inside me. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell her she was selfish, reckless, unfair. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the truth. I had felt something with her. A spark, raw and undeniable. "What are you expecting me to do with this?" I asked. She met my eyes, her expression serious for the first time. "I don't know. But I couldn't keep pretending. You deserve to know." I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling hard. "You know your sister's furious, right? She feels betrayed. I'll deal with her." Gabriella's voice was firm, almost defiant. "But I needed to deal with you first." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts a tangled mess. On one hand, there was Isabella, the woman I thought I'd fallen in love with. Kind, thoughtful, the one who talked about opening a dance studio and bringing joy to people's lives. She had been steady, warm, the safe choice. On the other hand, Gabriella burned brighter. She was wild, unpredictable, the storm that could sweep me away. The moments I'd shared with her, unknowingly, had been some of the most exhilarating of my life. Was it possible to love them both? Or had I just confused passion for love? The following weekend, Isabella invited me to dinner at her apartment. I could tell from the tightness in her smile that she was still angry. We ate in silence for the first 10 minutes until she finally set her fork down with a sharp clink. "I can't believe she did that to me," she muttered. "To us." I put my fork down too. "Isabella, we need to talk about this." Her eyes flicked up, wary. "About what?" "About Gabriella. About how sometimes I couldn't tell the difference." Her expression darkened. "Don't say that." "I have to." Because it's the truth. There were times I thought I was with you, but it was her. And the crazy thing is, I stopped myself, the words choking in my throat. You what? She pressed. I swallowed hard. I liked her. I didn't know it was her, but I did. And now I don't know what to do with that. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood abruptly. So you're saying you like my sister? I'm saying I'm confused. Her laugh was bitter. Confused? You're supposed to love me. Not wonder if you love the copycat who's been messing with your head. She's not just a copy, I blurted before I could stop myself. The look she gave me was enough to make my stomach drop. Pain. Anger. Betrayal. Get out, she said quietly. Isabella. Now. There was no room for argument. I left, the weight of her glare heavy on my back. The days that followed were agony. Isabella wouldn't answer my calls or texts. Gabriella, on the other hand, sent me short, cautious messages. Gabriella, you okay? Me, no. Gabriella, me neither. Finally, she asked to meet again. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at the beach at night, the waves glowing faintly under the moonlight. She wore a hoodie and shorts, her hair tied back. I ruined everything, didn't I? She said, her voice barely above the surf. I shook my head. It's not that simple. Of course it is. You loved her, and I stuck my nose where it didn't belong. I turned to her. But what if I loved you too? What then? Her breath caught, and for the first time since I'd known her, Gabriella looked vulnerable. Do you? I hesitated, the truth weighing heavy in my chest. I don't know. I just know that when I'm with you, I feel alive. Like I'm not just existing, but actually living. She closed her eyes for a moment, then whispered, I've wanted to hear you say that since the night we danced. The tension between us snapped. I don't even remember who moved first, but suddenly we were kissing, the salt air mingling with the taste of her lips. It was reckless, wrong, and yet it felt like fire in my veins. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathless, she pressed her forehead against mine. This can't last, she said. Isabella will never forgive us. I know, I whispered. But right now, I don't care. The kiss haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Gabriella's lips again. The heat, the spark, the recklessness. It wasn't just attraction. It was something more dangerous, something that clawed at the fragile walls of my conscience. Because behind every sweet memory with Gabriella stood Isabella, the woman I had sworn, at least in my heart, to be with. I didn't tell her about the kiss. Not at first. I told myself it would only make things worse, that it was a mistake best buried under silence. But secrets have a way of scratching at locked doors until the hinges give out. It didn't take long. One night, Isabella showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying, but her voice was steel. Did you kiss her? The words froze me. What? You heard me. She stood in my doorway, arms crossed tight across her chest. Did you kiss Gabriella? My throat tightened. Who told you that? Her laugh was sharp, bitter. She did. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. She told you? She said she felt guilty, Isabella spat. Said she couldn't live with herself if she didn't come clean. And I wanted to believe she was exaggerating, but the look on your face right now, her voice cracked. That's all the answer I need. Isabella, please. I reached for her arm, but she jerked back like I was poison. You don't get to touch me. Not after that. It wasn't planned, I said desperately. It just happened. I was confused, You were mine, she snapped, her voice rising. And you gave a piece of us to her. My sister, of all people. Her words cut deeper than I expected. "I love you," I said, my voice breaking. "You're the one I want." "No," she shook her head fiercely, tears streaming now. "If you loved me, you wouldn't even think about her. But you did. And worse, you acted on it." The silence that followed was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to beg, to undo time itself. But Isabella turned, storming down the hallway. As the door slammed shut, I felt something splinter inside me. The fallout was nuclear. Days turned into weeks, and I didn't hear from Isabella. Not a text, not a call. When I tried showing up at her apartment, her cousin answered the door and told me to leave before Isabella saw me. Meanwhile, Gabriella hovered on the edges of my life. She sent me a few tentative texts, but I ignored most of them. I didn't blame her for telling Isabella. If anything, it proved she had a conscience, but I couldn't look at her without remembering the mess we'd made. My friends noticed the change. "You look like hell," my buddy Marco told me over beers one night. What happened? I almost laughed. How could I explain this? That I'd fallen for a woman only to realize her identical twin had been slipping into her place, stealing my time, my attention, and maybe even my heart? "It's complicated," I muttered, staring into my glass. "Women always are," Marco shrugged. "But if you really love her, fight for her." Easy for him to say. He didn't know there were two of them. The first time I saw Isabella again was by accident. I was walking out of a bookstore when she appeared on the sidewalk, her hair in a messy bun, sunglasses perched on her head. For a second, we both froze. Then she turned sharply, heading the other way. "Isabella!" I called, chasing after her. She walked faster. "Please, just let me talk to you." Finally, she stopped, spinning around. Her eyes were blazing. "What could you possibly say that I haven't already heard?" "That I made a mistake," I said breathlessly. "That I'm sorry. That I still love you." Her jaw clenched. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about you and me. It's about her. She's my twin. My blood. You didn't just betray me. You drove a wedge into something sacred." Her words made me flinch. "I never wanted to hurt you," I whispered. "But you did," she shot back. "And the worst part? Some part of you wanted her. Maybe still does. And I can't live with that." The finality in her voice was a dagger. She turned and walked away, and this time I didn't follow. After that, I spiraled. Work suffered. I stopped going out. My apartment turned into a cluttered mess of takeout containers and unwashed laundry. Then Gabriella showed up. It was late on a Friday night. I was half asleep on the couch when a knock rattled my door. I opened it to find her standing there, rain dripping from her hair. "You look terrible," she said softly. "I feel worse. Can I come in?" I hesitated. Letting her in felt like throwing gasoline on a fire. But something in her eyes, regret, maybe, or desperation, made me step aside. She sat on the edge of the couch, fiddling with her hands. "I'm sorry for everything. For kissing you. For telling her. For ruining what you two had." I rubbed my face. "You didn't ruin it. I did." Silence stretched between us. The rain tapped against the windows, filling the void neither of us wanted to cross. Finally, Gabriella whispered, "Do you regret it?" "The kiss." I looked at her, my chest tightening. "I regret the pain it caused. But the kiss itself? No." Her eyes glistened. "Me neither." And there it was again, that dangerous spark, alive even in the ashes. Gabriella didn't leave that night. We didn't kiss again, didn't even touch. She just sat beside me on the couch, the rain outside filling the silence between our words. We talked, really talked, for the first time without pretending, without masks. She told me about her life, about how she always felt like the second twin. Isabella had always been the achiever, the golden child. Gabriella was the wild one, the rule-breaker. Their parents never said it out loud, but she always felt compared, always measured against her sister's shining example. "So when I saw you with her," she admitted, staring at her hands, "I wanted to know what made you choose her. Why not me? And when you didn't notice right away, when you thought I was her, I guess it made me feel like maybe I was enough." I didn't know what to say. My chest ached. "I don't hate her," Gabriella continued. "She's my sister. I'd take a bullet for her. But sometimes I wish, just once, I could be the one people picked first." Her voice cracked on the last word. And in that moment I understood the weight she carried, even if it didn't excuse what she had done. I reached out, hesitated, then rested my hand lightly on hers. "You are enough. More than enough." Her eyes shimmered, and for a second I thought we might cross that line again. But instead she pulled her hand back and whispered, "I should go." She left me with a head full of questions and a heart pulled in two directions. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, Gabriella and I found ourselves orbiting each other. Not dating, not exactly friends, but something in between. She'd text me late at night. Funny memes, random thoughts, half-confessions. Sometimes we'd grab coffee, careful to avoid the spots where Isabella might see us. Every time I was with her, I felt alive again. She challenged me, teased me, lit a fire under me. But every time I went home afterward, guilt sank into my stomach like a stone. Because Isabella was still out there, nursing her hurt. And no matter how much I told myself I hadn't cheated, I had. Not just with the kiss, but with my heart. It all came crashing down the day Isabella found us. Gabriella and I were sitting in a park, sharing a bag of churros from a food cart. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of pink and orange. We were laughing about something stupid, I don't even remember what, when a voice cut through the air like a knife. "Well, isn't this cozy?" We both froze. Isabella stood a few feet away, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "I say," Gabriella started, but Isabella held up a hand. "Don't," she said coldly. Her gaze shifted to me. "So this is why you've been quiet. Because you've been sneaking around with her." "It's not like that," I said quickly, standing. "We were just—" "Just what?" Her eyes blazed. "Sharing snacks? Having a laugh? Maybe kissing again when no one's looking?" "Isabella, please," Gabriella said, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think." "No," Isabella snapped. "It's exactly what I think. The two of you can have each other. I'm done." She turned on her heel and stormed away before either of us could stop her. I sat back down heavily, running a hand through my hair. "She hates me." Gabriella's voice was small. "She hates me too." We sat there in silence, the taste of sugar suddenly bitter on my tongue. After that, everything felt like shattered glass. Isabella blocked my number. Gabriella tried reaching out to her, but she wouldn't answer. Their parents eventually found out. Families have a way of hearing things, and the twins' relationship fractured. They barely spoke, and when they did, it was shouting matches that left both in tears. And me? I was caught in the wreckage, torn between guilt and the undeniable pull I felt toward Gabriella. One night, she showed up at my place again, this time looking more broken than I'd ever seen her. "She won't forgive me," she said, her voice raw. "She says I betrayed her worse than you did. And maybe she's right." I pulled her inside, sat her down, tried to comfort her. And when she cried into my shoulder, when her fingers curled into my shirt like she was afraid of letting go, I made the choice I'd been avoiding for weeks. I kissed her again. This time, she didn't pull away. This time, it wasn't a mistake, it was a decision. The weeks that followed were a blur of secrecy and stolen moments. Gabriella and I weren't officially together. We didn't dare call it that, but we were something. We went on late-night drives, sat on rooftops watching the city lights, held each other when the guilt got too heavy. For the first time in a long time, I felt happy. But it was a fragile happiness, like glass balanced on the edge of a table. One wrong move, and it would all come crashing down. And in the back of my mind, Isabella's words echoed like a curse. You didn't just betray me, you drove a wedge into something sacred. I feared she was right. Because no matter how much Gabriella and I tried to build something real, it was built on cracks. And cracks always spread.